thank you that we are in this great country where we can speak freely and debate openly. May you now bless us and lead us to make wise decisions. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me with your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you everybody again for coming. Honored to have you here. There's some new faces in the room, and so we thought we'd like to do. Plus, I think it's really important. You know, as part of the TPO, we're obviously multi-county, multi-jurisdictions, and so I think it's really important that we continue to build a name across jurisdictional lines, get to recognize names and faces, and get to know each other. So we're all part of the same team at the end of the day, and so. Mr. Glad, we'll start with you. If you don't mind, we'll go around this way. If you can say your name, what office you hold, and where you're from.
Danny Glidewell, Walton County Commission, District 2.
I'm Bruce McCormick, Walton County Commissioner, District 1.
I'm Trey Nix, Walton County Commissioner, District 4.
J.D. Whitten, Mayor Crestview.
Hey, I'm Aaron Bakke. I am City Councilor, Mayor Pro Tem of Mary Esther.
I'm Bryant Paul with the Florida Department of Transportation.
Rodney Brady with Destin City Council.
I'm Mary Beth Washnock. I'm the Transportation Manager for the Emerald Coast Regional Council.
Mel Ponder, Vice Chair, Okaloosa County Commission.
Teresa Abear, Destin City Council.
Andrew Rensage, Crestview City Council.
Kathy Allen, Niceville City Council.
Dick Reinierson, Mayor, City of Fort Walton Beach.
Joe Blogger, City Councilman, Crestview.
Carolyn Ketchel, Chairman of Okaloosa County.
Austin Knapp, Emerald Coast Regional Council Director.
Anthony Valley, City of Spring Springs City Council.
Thank you. And Mr. Wood, I know you're going to.
Jim Wood, Vivid Bridge Authority.
Joe Madison, 26 Dustbin City Planner.
Thanks.
Pat Rio, living every day.
Awesome. Thanks. Commissioner Mixon, we'll circle back to you.
Sir, Paul Mixon.
Welcome. Anybody else want to announce your presence?
My name is Scott Bickford. I'm the Okaloosa County Engineer.
Thanks, Scott.
Jack Powell, Walton County Engineer.
Thank you. Ma'am? Ma'am?
Are you a citizen?
Ma'am? Yes. Yes, okay, get closer. Get everybody, or do you introduce yourself? Yes, well, thank you. Everybody, I'm glad everybody's here. Commissioner Boyles, Chair Boyles is out of town, so he couldn't be here, so you're stuck with me. Yes, ma'am. I missed somebody. Oh, back here. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Sorry, Mike. Pardon me.
Oh, Melissa Ward, Walton County Small Business Association.
Awesome. Good. If they got everybody good. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. But so I apologize to you both. Thank you, everybody. Well, Nathan's out of town, so I'm going to help chair the meeting today. And so let's just go right down the agenda. We do have a full agenda today. First up, we have approval of the agenda. Any new action?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Second. The first and the second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, motion carries. Item C, public forum. Is there anyone here today that needs to address the TPO?
So, Mr. Chairman, I just want to pause just a moment because we may have some folks out in the audience. I don't have any cards, but we may have some folks.
Okay. Is there anybody here that has like to speak?
Depending on what I hear.
Is there,
Pat Rio.
there's not a time later in the agenda though. We can make some time later. Okay, that's no problem. We'll wait and get through it and let if there's anything else that needs to be said at the end. Okay, anyone online need to say anything? No? Okay, Bob, thank y'all for being here. We want you to introduce yourself real quick so those on the team.
Oh, Mary Jo Public Relations Manager for Emerald Coast Regional Council.
Awesome.
And I'm Ray Emery McPhee. I'm also public relations.
Well, thank y'all for what you do. Keeping the sound going, everything blowing going. FDOT update, Mr. Paul, would you mind giving us an update, please, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The department's got one item to update this board on today. It's the upcoming resurfacing project on State Road 85. This project will go from State Road 123 in the south to north of Hospital Drive. This will have additional improvements beyond our normal resurfacing program project. We'll be adding additional turn lanes at John King Road. And we'll also be adding some substantial improvements at the I-10 interchange with an additional through lane going north, along with some improvements on the eastbound exit ramps, hoping to squeeze just as much as possible out of that location as we can until such time we can get that widening project going. The project was let to contract last month, so you should see construction along that corridor early fall of this year. And with that, that concludes the department's update.
Paul, thank you very much. Any questions, Mr. Paul?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Yeah, Brian, I heard the improvement at John King about Live Oak.
Yes, sir. We've got improvements, additional turn lanes at Live Oak and Antioch included in this project.
Good. Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else? Also on the line is Chair Boyles. Mr. Chair, do you have anything you'd like to say before we move forward?
No, sir, not at all. Apologies for not being able to be there.
Well, we
Thanks
missed
for
you.
holding out for
Absolutely. Well, you please enjoy. We miss you, and thanks for calling in. Okay, item B is consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. So moved by Mayor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilwoman Hebert. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. And motion passed. Okay, now we move into the meat of the agenda under actionable items. Under enclosure A, we have all committees, TP, which will have a public hearing shortly and a roll call. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Gary Kramer from staff. If you please give us an update on item A.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, TPO members. Closure A is the fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program. The fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program was a review item in April and for action this month. The fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program is the end product of the cycle, which began with the TPO adoption of the fiscal year 22-26 project priorities last September, and the FDOT presenting the tentative fiscal year 22-26 work program in January of this year. The fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program was posted in the link in your agenda enclosure on May 19th, 2021. The link was also emailed to the members of the TPO, TCC, and CAC by Mary Beth Washnock on May 20th, 2021. The comments were received from the fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program begin on page 28 of the agenda enclosure and were addressed accordingly in the fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program. Both your advisory committees were met earlier today and recommended approval as presented. If you have any questions, I'll attempt to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer, for your presentation of item A, resolution OW 21-09. This is a public hearing, but before we do that, is there any questions of Mr. Kramer before we get to the time of public hearing? Okay, seeing none, it is a public hearing. Is there any member of the public who wishes to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, this item requires a roll call vote. If there's any other questions, please, we'll take them now. If not, we'll proceed to roll call vote. Okay, seeing none, Mary Beth, please do a roll call vote. Oh, I'm sorry. For a roll call vote? Okay, we need to, it requires to go to roll call, it requires a first and a second to push it to roll. Okay, Chair.
I'll second.
First and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
No.
Motion passes. Roll
Now
call
we
vote.
do the- Sorry, we're just trying to get this straight.
Oh, that's
Okay,
good.
Mayor Witten,
Yes.
Councilman Blocker. Councilman Blocker,
Yeah.
Councilman Renzick,
Yes.
Commissioner Valley. Commissioner Valley,
Sorry, Councilman. Yes.
Councilman Braden,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hebert.
Yes.
Mayor Von Niersen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baki,
Yes.
Councilwoman Alley. Yes. Commissioner Ketchel,
Yes.
Commissioner Mixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponder,
Yes.
Commissioner Nick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gladwell,
Yes.
Commissioner McCormick.
Yes. Okay, motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item is enclosure B, which is resolution 0W21-12, and staff presented by Ms. Jill Nobles. Ms. Nobles, will you please present the item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, TPO members. As Gary just presented the tip and y'all adopted that, that is the end of the annual TPO planning process. The project priorities is the very beginning, hence the new set of 5-year increments from 23 to 27. Next slide. I'm going to hand it over to Ray now to sum up the public involvement and outreach efforts that we've done and the survey results that came in from those efforts.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Chairman, board members. As she said, I'm Ray McPhee, and I'm going to go over the public involvement that we got for the project priorities. We had our virtual workshop on May 5th of this year, had wonderful participation and some wonderful feedback from that event. Next slide, please. Let's dig into the meat and potatoes of our online survey. Here we had a tie for first with respondents coming from Santa Rosa Beach, Defuniak Springs, and Fort Walton Beach. Across that, it's spread pretty evenly from our other correspondents. Next slide. The first and most important for our participants was an intelligent traffic signal management moving forward with our project priorities. Tied for second was capacity improvement and bicycle and pedestrian improvements as well. Next slide. I know this is very small, but what we want to look at here are the color codes, just again to prove and see that it is spread pretty evenly across all of our type of project improvements. Next slide. And this goes into the specific projects for the non-SIS intermodal systems. The first tied again for the Hollywood Boulevard project and the State Road 20, both of those are capacity projects. Next slide. Now we do have a little video to show you that we've played during the workshop to help garner input and things of that nature. But before I start, do we have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Was this survey made to the public and who was supposed to get it out to us?
Yes, ma'am. It was disseminated through Facebook, online. It's also sent out via an email blast for our interested parties listing. Those participants were, they subscribed to our email through our website. We have it on, I think, 3 different pages at this point, where you can go in and you can subscribe to our email updates and get invited to these workshops. Welcome. Anything else? Okay, wonderful. Brittany, go ahead and play that video, please.
Welcome to the Okaloosa-Walton Transportation Priorities Virtual Workshop. We appreciate your taking time to be with us, to learn more about the priorities process, and to give your input. Annually, the Okaloosa-Walton Transportation Planning Organization, or TPO, reviews the transportation priorities for the urbanized areas of Okaloosa and Walton counties in Florida. Creating a list of project priorities maximizes available resources while determining how to meet the greatest needs of the region. Where do these projects come from? Project priorities come from a much larger, long-range transportation plan, LRTP for short. This plan looks out 20 to 25 years and identifies projects needed throughout the TPO region. Since it looks out so far into the future, the LRTP is amended as needed to include new projects or remove projects that are funded or no longer relevant. The LRTP consists of 2 lists of projects, the needs plan and the cost feasible plan. The needs plan consists of all transportation projects needed over the next 20 years, and the cost feasible plan consists of the top projects that we can foreseeably afford over the next 20 years. And that's where the project priorities come from, the cost feasible plan. Once the TPO determines what is actually feasible for our budgeted dollars, we start prioritizing how these projects will get accomplished. These priorities are submitted to the Florida Department of Transportation for potential funding in the next 5 years. Projects are selected for funding based upon local priority, funding availability, and project timing. The final list of selected projects that will be FDOT funded is referred to as the 5-year work program. The list of all state and locally funded projects is the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, and is available online for public viewing. This list of projects will give you a good idea of what will be implemented over the next 5 years. There are several categories of funding for transportation projects, and each category must be prioritized. To ensure that transportation needs are met, we need your input. You can find an abundance of information and how you can share your thoughts on our virtual open house webpage. Here are several ways to submit your input. An online survey is linked on this page for you to share your thoughts on the current priorities. Hard copy surveys are available upon request for you to submit by mail. Comments can also be submitted by calling 850-637-1131. Please be sure to include your name, zip code, and the item you will address on the voice message, or via email to publicinvolvement@ecrc.org. Don't forget to subscribe now to get email updates. Thank you for your help in creating project priorities that will better serve the needs of your community.
Thanks, Ray. That was a video that we showed at our public workshops, just to give an overall perspective of where the priorities fit into the TPO planning process and how we develop that every year. Like it said, this is based off of the current LRTP, or Long Range Transportation Plan, which is the 2040 LRTP. Any completed projects are removed from the list. Projects scheduled for construction in the first 3 years are moved to the fully funded list, and then any new projects that have been amended into the LRTP's cost feasible plan in the last year are added to the bottom of the list. Next slide. We started this process actually back in March. We had our first TPO TCC CAC workshop, and then we presented the draft priorities at your April TPO meetings. And then in May, we did another round of public outreach and did a second TPO TCC CAC workshop. And so we were asking for final approval today. Through that, all of that public involvement and outreach, we did receive 2 comments on the next slide that I've pulled out. All of the comments are in your agenda packet, but these 2 would require action on your part if you were to consider them. The first one is comment number 20, the non-SIS number 5 ITS and Advanced Traffic Management System. This is a comment from Okaloosa County. It says the location has been selected for the TMC to be located at the EOC in Niceville. 60% design plans are completed, and this project should be moved up to number 2 on the non-SIS list. And the costs need to be updated. In the priorities right now, it says $750,000, so up to $950,000 for the TMC building. And then it has $600,000 for upgrades in the priorities, and they're saying reduce that to $500,000. So overall, only a $100,000 adjustment in the priorities. But if you were to make this cost adjustment, as well as the moving it up to number 2, that would require specific action by y'all today. And then the other comment is kind of more administrative, but I do want y'all to be aware of it if we do change it. Non-SIS number 6, Crestview Bypass West, US 90 to State Road 85 North. Just changing the name to the quadrant names. And I would suggest that we do this for all of them, just for consistency's sake. So having it Northwest, Southwest, and the other 2. But if you do that, I would request specific action by y'all today if you want to rename that, just for easier identification.
Thank you, Ms. Nobles. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have,
Chairman,
yes, ma'am.
could
Madam
I
Chair.
just give Ms. Noble some feedback?
Of course.
I liked your video very much. I would say that you need to leave the telephone number and the contact information on there for a longer period of time. If somebody from the public is looking at it, because it was so fast that it was hard. And if somebody really earnestly wants to get in touch with you, that would just some feedback for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Anybody else have a question, Ms. Nobles, on this item? This is not a public hearing item though, ma'am. Does any of the committee have any questions for Ms. Nobles on this item? Okay, this is a roll call, but before, what we're voting on is actually the resolution and the two items that she read to us there. And so what I need is a first and a second to send it to a roll call vote. So with that, I'll put it out for the committee for a motion. And
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have first by Councilman Aber, second by Commissioner Mixon. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, first round.
I'm curious to understand, for the ITS being moved up or recommended to be moved up to number 2, the actual rationale behind the reprioritization of that.
Is that Ms. Nobles will answer that, or is that because Okaloosa, is that Mr. Bitterman, that might be you, or?
I can answer it, Jill can answer.
Okay, Ms. Nobles, can you answer that, might answer that question for us? The question is what's the rationale behind switching 5 and 2?
Well, that's what I would need clarifying from y'all, if y'all are switching or if you're just moving number 2 or moving it up to number 2. But it was a comment from Okaloosa County. I think they, I believe their rationale was that, you know, it is advancing in the design phase and they are ready to get this funded. And so they're wanting it higher in the priorities so it will line up with their plans to move forward with the building of the TMC.
Okay, Mayor, and actually, ma'am, I did find we can take public, so I'll take your question in just 1 second. Okay, Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may not be the right time, but that's never stopped me before. So. You know, as we're moving along with our priorities, PJ Adams is moving along very rapidly. And real soon it's going to be up to Crab Apple, which is the contention I've had in several other meetings. And that is originally that project had nothing at the intersection of PJ Adams and Crab Apple, which has 170 families there. And it went from nothing to a roundabout to a set of lights back to nothing. And so last year we put on the need, putting in a set of lights, which would require realigning Old Antioch Road across from Crab Apple. And I've been researching, I've discussed this with Joe before, how we can get it off the needs list and put it to the cost feasible list so we can see if there's something we can do or not. Because what we're going to do is go right by Crab Apple and leave that project sitting there for who knows how many years. And so I need to find out how we can do that.
Mr. Mount, you want to gather some guidance on that, or is that Mr. Bitterman?
I believe I was told I could bring it up here, so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, we met with the mayor, Jill and I did, and had some conversation about this. We're going to continue to work and to try to elevate that. Also work with the department and see what we can do. That doesn't give you a solid answer, but we'll look into it.
I mean, for purposes of it, right, just for this, Mr. Mount, I mean, this is all, I've just started back in March, so for today, this would be something maybe that the mayor could work with you on for next year to, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Mayor?
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Bitterman, and then may I want to get the ladies' inquiry as well. Yes, please.
I'll address the question that was raised. Why would we elevate it at this point in time? It's been on the needs list, kind of hanging around, kind of in the middle for 7 or 8 years. About that time, FDOT gives the county some box funds to find a location for the Transportation Management Center and then to begin the design on it. So we found that location was going to be at the Emergency Operations Center in Niceville. And the purpose of the Transportation Management Center will be to get all of the signals, have somebody monitoring all the signals in the county and to squeeze every ounce of efficiency that we can out of all of those signals. So it'll be a really good project for all of the traveling public. And the reason that we're wanting to bring it up at this time is we do have 60% plans done
That's why we had the cost adjustments. As the design gets closer and closer, we can hone in what the true cost is of that building. And so we would like to adjust the cost numbers so that we can actually construct it, and we'll be ready to construct it by the end of the year. So that's the reason that we'd like to move it up at this time. I'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all have about it. I'll add that the coordinating committee, we did vote to move it up and recommend that y'all move it up as well.
Thank you, Mr. Bitter. Ma'am, what's your question, Mr. Bitter? Okay, I think that, Mr. Bitter, thank you for taking the mic and give us a rundown on that. Ms. Gladden, you have a question, sir?
Chairman?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Of Mr. Bitterman, or just a question of?
No, I have a question about, or I have a comment about the ranking.
Yes.
Anyone who's been through the city of Freeport understands that the 33120 intersection is well over capacity and is in critical need of immediate improvements. It's not just a tourist issue anymore. Now it is a citizens issue. You can't move from 20 east to 20 west without setting through 5 or 6 lights, and you can't move north and south on 331 either. So right now, the 4-lane into that project, or that stretch of road, which also includes that intersection, is ranked number 9, and we would like to see that moved up at least into the top 5, because I believe that not only impacts the citizens of Freeport, that impacts 70% of our citizens in the north end of Walton County who have to go to work down that stretch every day. So we can't wait any longer, and I would appreciate it, some consideration about moving number 9 up into the top 5. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner, is that the King Road and Black Creek Boulevard? Is that an item?
Yes, sir. That's the 4-lane and through the city of Freeport, which is King Road through Black Creek Boulevard, I believe.
Mr. Mount, what is the, I know this has already been previously done for this year. What is it this year, can he, as Walton County, petition for next year to make sure it's in the top, whatever, what's the proper protocol?
Really, the protocol is whatever the board is comfortable with. If you all feel that to make a change at this point in time, just remember that if something goes up, something comes down. And we always need to vet that with FDOT because some projects are more in line for future phases of funding than others as far as project readiness. Anything is possible. That is at the discretion of the board.
Does that also mean, Mr. Mount, by looking at our 2024, the 9.3 million, it's maybe Mr. Paul, maybe I don't know if it's fully assured, but at least it's somewhat slated to be funded in 2024?
That is correct. We do have those design funds allocated.
Okay, so if they try to move it, there's not necessarily money available, so you can't make money out of nothing, but I don't know,
Well, what would happen is basically what this board decides today as far as the ranking. That'll come to the department, and then our management team will then take a look to see where we can program the revenue we have. So if this one moves up or we get to this one, we would then look to see where we could program the right-of-way acquisition phase, what year we could program those funds.
Okay.
Chairman, could I suggest
Yes,
that you
sure.
take these in 2 bites because
Yeah.
one is different than the other? Maybe consider the first and then consider the second one. It's 2 separate measures.
Second being his request or the?
No. Ms. Nobles presented 2
Right, we have-
changes.
Right,
And so the first one
which
is
includes,
changing the
we have an
ranking.
underlying resolution.
Yes.
But yeah, then his would be a separate motion, which is perfectly fine. So, what, are you good with that? To present it, clear these up and then discuss the movement of your item? Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so we have, is everybody consensus good with that? Ma'am, and let's get your question out of the way. What was your question, please, before we go?
Just my opinion, I have lived in Crestview, I have lived in Shalimar, I now live in Freeport. And pre-COVID, it was getting bad as far as people moving. It's now, we have so many new people living there, and we're having 15,000 more houses in Freeport alone coming. So that intersection he's talked about, 20 and 331, is very dangerous. There's already been road rage, there's been accidents, and he's right. The north, they have to come down, and they have to go to work. And it's a pain in the ass.
Watch your man, if you don't mind, watch your language. Thank
For
you.
them to come on down, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for your service.
So and there's a lot more veterans in this area, and people that live in the city, most of our veterans, and they're gonna tell you, it's gotten bad, it's only gonna get worse. And when FDOT did their survey, it was pre-COVID. They really need to do another survey because there's more traffic than you think going through on 20 and 331. It's worse off than people realize. You have to live there and be in it every day to understand what's going on. I lived in Crestview, it sucked. And I know Crestview's growing too. I used to come to TDY all the time down here, to all the bases, we've got so many military. There was nothing here, and in the last 10 years, everything just exploded. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we need to work together, like you said, in priorities. I do believe Freeport is higher.
Well, then that we'll definitely be discussing that here in just one second. So thank you, ma'am, for your comments and
Yep.
input. All right, with that, we have two motions. We'll take the first one will include the resolution and the two items on the board. The second one, which we'll vote on second, both requires a roll call, will be discussions about Walton County's concerns. So with that, I need a first and a second to go to roll call, which I think we have. Ms. Abear, then who was the second? Mr. Mixon. So we have a first and a second, so roll call. Mary Beth, this is for the first motion.
Do we have a clarification? Does that include the two comments?
They include the two items on the board and the underlying resolution, but not the Walton County initiative.
Right, the two comments, right?
Yes.
Let's pull up the slide that has the two items that Joel discussed that's part of this motion. That way everybody sees. Okay. Roll call.
Roll call, yes, ma'am, please.
Mayor Witten,
Yes.
Councilman Blocker,
Yes.
Councilman Rancic,
Yes.
Commissioner Valley,
Yes.
Councilman Braden,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hebert.
Yes, it's A Bear.
Sorry. Mayor Brinerson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Baki,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ollie. Allie?
Allie, yes.
Commissioner Ketchel,
Yes.
Commissioner Mixon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ponder,
Yes.
Commissioner Nick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gladwell,
Yes.
Commissioner McCormick.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Now, the next motion, Mr. Mount, I'll probably need your guidance on this. Mr. Gladwell, Commissioner Gladwell presented a possibility to move item 9 up. Admittedly, I'll look to some of, Commissioner Ketchel and others have been here before, but Mr. Mount, in terms of guidance on how do you do that? Because I know one goes up. Can you guide us on, make sure they feel their voice is heard and then how they can have a path to what they're trying to do?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, if you choose to elevate a project's ranking in this list, you would want to propose where to put it. And to keep the peace, everybody who has a project in there, if they're comfortable with their project coming down, we would need to have that conversation, or I would recommend the board have that conversation. Now, the one question that we do have is in the cost feasible plan, the right of way is not included. So I guess maybe I hate to shoot a question across the room here, but Brian, if the right of way is not included in the cost feasible and we elevate that up, is it something simple as we could put it in the new plan?
It is. It could be accounted for in the new plan because realistically, if the department were to be able to fund the right-of-way acquisition, it would be in one of the outer years of the program, which gives you more than enough time to amend your plan prior to, actually needing to authorize those funds.
Okay. Any comment from Chair or go ahead, Chair Dan?
Yes, sir.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I want to echo what Commissioner Gladwell said. Freeport is a sense of urgency for us. We see it every day. The traffic is at levels that we, as locals, haven't seen in our whole time. I can tell you that. Whatever we can do to move that project up would be greatly appreciated.
Would y'all want to have make a motion of any kind and then we can take action on it? The worst case, Mr. Mount, if I need, Mr. Mount, actually a quick question. I'm sorry about that. Pardon me interrupting, but they're going to give us a suggestion where they think it should go and then we can decide. But worst case, could they not immediately start working with you for the next year to move it up, since this has been something looked at before? I want to make sure their voice can be heard. They feel like they've got an an urgent need, validated by a citizen. And if just for next year, they have a pretty solid shot at the table, or I just like some guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly, to move it up today, there's been conversations that we've had about number 7, the Hollywood Boulevard extension. Is that really, what is it? Is it feasible? Is it still important? Is it still on the books for somebody? Crestview Bypass West. We could have those conversations today and just kind of iron it out because we do have pretty good representation. Or on the flip side, we could continue to work with Walton County, as we would with any of our local governments, if you have a priority, how to elevate that project in future years. Again, it's.
Sure. So and I don't know, clearly the mayor's here and both, and I don't know of those communities, if that's what you're getting to, they're still as viable today, maybe some of the other stuff, I don't know. If Crestview or Fort want to speak to that, or if they are, then, and as Mr. Mount said, there may not be much wiggle room, but if they're not, maybe that they can move up a couple spots.
Yeah, whatever we need to do. I didn't make a motion.
Well, I was getting input from staff rep. Does it require a motion at this point, or do we want to get input from the 2 other affected cities? Since you're talking about moving things around, they should at least have.
Mr. Chairman, may I address that to
Please, yes,
from the
please.
department's perspective?
Thank you.
As Austin pointed out, you've got above this one, the Hollywood Boulevard extension. You've got the Crestview Bypass West. And then you got some of the kind of set aside or boxed funds. Well, the State Road 20 project, that one in specific number 9, the next need for that is right of way. I just do want to explain that the way the department sets up our work program, we have multiple pots of funding, and the pot of funding for design is totally separate than the one we use for right of way acquisition. So when we look at this project list, we say, okay, what's the next project that needs design funded or PD&E? And then we also say, what's the next one that needs right of way or construction? Because those 2 are lumped together. Yours is in a good position because yours is the first one with a right of way need. So whether it jumps up to number 5 ahead of number 6 or 7, actually does not have a bearing on when the department would be able to fund. I did want to make that clear because we do look at the funding of the design phase separately than the funding of a right-of-way acquisition phase. Again, you guys set the priority. We respect that. I'm saying if it didn't move up, you didn't lose anything today because we're still going to look at this project because it is your first right-of-way need from this organization.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Commissioner Bowles online had a comment, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just kind of echo the comments the DOT just made. I think the project, we certainly want to make sure we're taking care of all of our counties and our cities. I do think the project referenced on 20 is critically important. I also think it's placed really well on the priorities right now. And I think you have to look at the context of the size of the projects that are above it. And by and large, those Highway 20 projects, which are actually 3 projects, totaling together a substantial sum, are in a very good spot. The only project I would say that's comparable in scope, cost-wise, above it really would be the Crestview Bypass project north of 90, and that would be the one project certainly I would ask that we not leapfrog, that we kind of keep the established order that has been in place, and just kind of recognize that order was in part established by the earlier funding that went to the Highway 331 corridor and that recent widening project that was created. And so in order to, help maintain balance and also ensure that all, projects are moving forward, I think we're actually pretty close with the way we've honed these project lists down at this point in time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Y'all.
Well, we want to move up. But I understand the list of priorities. I understand that. That's great. I understand what Commissioner Bowles was saying. But I don't know. Do we take it to a motion?
Commissioner McCormick.
What comment?
Yes.
Please, Commissioner McCormick.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just in support of my fellow commissioners here. Excuse me. I'm actually the commissioner, and I live in Freeport, and Freeport, this intersection is in my district. one thing that concerns me is we a lot of hard work and a lot of putting things in priority by a lot of people. But what I'm afraid there's one part of this puzzle that's not being highlighted is this. The situation with the 2330 intersection has completely deteriorated at such a rate that it's almost ridiculous, and it's happened recently. And I think what happens when things open back up, we just got hit. We used to deal with this backlog 3 or 4 miles, but we actually have on Saturdays from 98 to almost the interstate. For those that don't know the area, that's almost 14 miles of standstill traffic. That's how critical. And I just want to make sure that through this process, we realize that the situation today was not what it was when we were looking at these projects earlier. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman.
No, please.
That is exactly accurate. Freeport is growing at about a 20% annual clip. No one anticipated that, but it's on us. And if we don't, and what this is causing, as Commissioner McCormick pointed out, it's backing up now north of Freeport to the Puniac, and even north of 90 onto 83, which has never experienced backup troubles. Now we're seeing 1 and 2 mile backups on Saturdays as a course of business. And we appreciate the department, and we appreciate the comments of Commissioner Goyle, but we can't wait to get some relief in Freeport 5 or 6 years. And this is the highest ranked project in Walton County, and it's 9. So, I mean, we can't afford to wait till 26 or 27 to at least start moving the right of way and at least start doing the PD&Es. At least there is some funding attached to this project. There are projects ahead of it. There's no funding that looks to be attached. So if we move as a compromise, if y'all would, I'll make that a motion to move to number 7, which at least is telling the citizens of Walton County that this board is concerned and that y'all recognize that we have a problem and we need to do something a little bit better. So I'll make that a motion to move from 9 to 7.
And Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion is Mayor Pro Tem Bakken.
Yeah. So trying to understand what we had mentioned from FDOT around the right-of-way ranking itself. It seems like the number 9, right, is actually first in line for right-of-way funding. Is that correct?
Just want to call it first in line for this TPO area.
For this TPO, yeah, for this TPO area. Okay, so number 7 is actually the one that impacts me the most as Mary Esther. You know, I honestly do feel comfortable, you know, allowing for number 9 to go above number 7. As was mentioned, it actually would impact number 7 whatsoever. So I feel comfortable as, you know, lending that olive branch and supporting Walton County and their needs there, to show support for the county itself. Yeah, so that's an interesting comment itself, just an observation with right of way.
Thank you very much for your comments. That's very good. Yes, Chairman.
I do want to also chime in terms of the city of Defuniak is being bottlenecked and impacted by this congestion that's happened. It actually did happen extremely quickly. Actually, what is going on is that we had about 1,500 units of residential apartments that opened up in Hammock Bay, and that traffic seems to be going to the south rather than to the west, which was our traditional traffic pattern to the base and to the rental market in adjacent to Niceville. So we've seen that happen very quickly, and because of our citizens work on the south end predominantly, they have to deal with it twice a day. And what I've seen personally is daily road-related incidents, which we've never seen in Walton County before. The kind of thing that you might have gotten in Bay County during the worst of the construction, but we're seeing it on a commonplace basis, and that is disconcerting. It's the schools are locked in. We can't get to the schools. We can't get through the intersections. There's no other alternate routes for fire department. This is the only way in and out, south and north in Freeport. We only have one bypass to the north, and that requires a large detour to get around the heavily trafficked areas, and those get blocked up by the schools as well. So we have a serious safety issue that's building very quickly. And I am concerned not only for Freeport, but for what the consequences are to Definiak.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, sir. Appreciate it. Any other comment, Commissioner?
Just to add up real quick too, to point out for the folks that don't know our geography, 331 is our only north and south artery between the Gulf of Mexico and the interstate. It is the only north and south artery. It's not like we have alternative north and south ways we could do this. So I just want to point that out. We have one north and south artery, and it's 331.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Any other comment? We have a first and a second. Councilman Alley and then Mayor Reniers.
I'm just going to speak in favor of the motion. I drove through there yesterday at 1:30 in the afternoon to go to Panama City, then coming back about 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And even moving this up, what kind of time frame are we talking about? I mean, I agree, it's very critical and it's going to get worse. I mean, over the next 2 years is going to be pretty bad in that location. Even by moving it up, I mean, what are we talking about a time frame of being able to start a project like that?
The weather department builds our work program. We have a 5-year window that we build out to. So anytime we're talking about new projects or new phases, it's normally toward the end of that 5-year window. So right away acquisition would come in the fiscal year 25, 26, 27 area, and then we would be looking for construction. So we're a ways away from that. But now I will say we do monitor our individual intersections, so we could potentially have to look at some interim improvements at that location to get us by until we can get it fully funded for the capacity improvement.
So if I understand you correctly, you're talking about 8 years?
We're looking beyond 2028 for construction.
Mayor Reniers.
I'm going to support the motion, even though the Hollywood extension not only affects Mary Esther, it certainly affects Walton Beach, but I think your need is more critical than mine, and I will certainly support the motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. Councilwoman Ager.
I'm a councilwoman from Destin, but in my real day job, I'm in sales, and I drive that. And I found that I would rather go across Okaloosa Island and go up to 10 and go to Mariana without dealing with 331. And my concern is there any way that we could put in any kind of emergency funding to set this up a lot sooner than 8 years? Because I don't think 2 years is going to be hard for the city and that road. Is there any kind of emergency setups that you can do for something that's turned into a critical roadway versus just standard growth?
No, Councilwoman, well, there's not any type of expedited funding source for us to use. We have our standard state and federal sources, and that's what we have to do is put them into the work program. Once the funding gets into the work program, we might have some opportunities to advance that funding, but at this point in time, we program 100% of our available dollars.
Yeah, Councilwoman. Sure. Ketchel.
I'm going to support it as well. It's my district to jump over this, but you know, in an effort to be good partners, and I really feel for your situation. I wish we could wave a magic wand. We're a product of our own success here. We've been discovered, and there's no pushing back at this time. But I almost wish our infrastructure had been in place, but it was a chicken egg thing. I mean, now we're all jammed up every which way. I mean, we had a critical thing happen here the other day, and there was no movement. There was no way to get from here to Niceville for hours. For hours, we were stuck. Traffic was backed up all the way. There's only one way in and out for all of these things. So I really feel for you all. I wish we could change it.
Thank you, Chair Ketchel. Any other comments? We have a first and a second, and we are going to vote to send it to roll call, just like the others. And so I'll come back to comment later, not for this. So for first and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Roll call vote. Mary Beth.
Mayor Whitten.
The motion to move it to 7, just so everyone knows. Okay, good. Mary Beth.
Yes.
Mayor Whitten. Councilman Blocker. Councilman Rancic.
Yes.
Commissioner Valley.
Yes.
Councilman Braden.
Yes.
Councilwoman Aber.
Yes.
Mayor Bonnerson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thaki.
Yes.
Councilwoman Alley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ketchel.
Yes.
Commissioner Nixon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ponder.
Yes.
Commissioner Nick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gladwell,
Yes.
Commissioner McCormick.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. Yeah, but I'm sorry, we trying to make, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Oh, well, I was, on the advice of my engineer, I was gonna ask the, Mr. DOT, is there any possibility of reallocating the money to just do, infrastructure, just do, the, intersection, improvements instead of the entire 4 lanes go? But, I mean, that would, do we get that done?
We do have a completed PD&E study that gives us the opportunity to look at interim improvements. Those design dollars actually come from our strategic intermodal system freight allocation. That's not a DOT District 3 allocated funding. If we were to turn that back and ask for it to be reallocated to an interim improvement, those dollars would not be eligible and we would lose those to another area of the state. Now,
Please don't.
Yeah. That being said, we can take from this back to the District 3 management team and go ahead and start looking at some opportunities to do some intersection improvements.
Thank you. And we would, on behalf of my fellow commissioners, we appreciate the support. And I mean, I know it's a big ask, but this is really, and I echo Chairman Kitchell. We should have had I wish we had had the infrastructure in place before the growth started, but I mean, it's just happening so fast, especially in Freeport. And as the lady said, the city of Freeport alone's got 15,000 permitted houses that are sitting there waiting for a sewer system to be built. That's another 25 to 30,000 people, and we can't accommodate them.
Well, we didn't have the money, but the next time the governor is coming to Walton County, you might ask them to come about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
We'll extend the invitation.
Awesome.
But we
All right.
really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, congratulations. Great motion. Well, I love the discussion. Well done. And item 3, yes, Mr. Brady.
Was there, I've heard this 15,000 homes 2 or 3 times. Was there not a traffic study done before that was approved and put in? And if so, where was that at and what was the funding for that?
I wouldn't want to speak for the county, of course, didn't, because it's not our purview. But I take your point.
Was there a traffic study done before that was approved?
I really don't know. That's the city of Freeport that's doing that. And their representative's not here, so.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, thank you. Fair questions on that. Oh, no problem. Councilman, thank you. Item number 3, enclosure C, consideration of resolution 0W21-13 adopting the Okaloosa-Walton TPO 2045 long-range transportation plan. Ms. Nobles?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, TPO members. This item will shed some light into why the dollars or the needs greatly outweigh the dollars coming towards us. This is the financial resources report. In the overall timeline of the 2045 LRTP update, these next 2 items are right in the middle of the process. Go ahead. The financial resources document looks at all of the sources of funding coming into the Okaloosa-Walton TPO from federal, state, and local levels. Next slide. The majority of our funds come from the state transportation revenue, and a majority of those funds are directly from the fuel taxes. And then the other about 40% are other fees and surcharges and like dock stamp taxes. Next slide. For those fuel tax rates, the column on the left is the federal gas tax at 18.4 cents, which hasn't increased since the early 90s, and that's per gallon. And then the 6 cents is for diesel fuel. And then at the state level, there's a 14.5 cent tax along with an 8 cent tax. And then at the local level, it kind of just depends on the county and the city as to what they have enacted and imposed on for their gas taxes. So for Okaloosa and Walton counties, depending on where you are, what you're going to pay in gas taxes is anywhere from 50 to about 55 cents per gallon. And then you can add another 6 cents per gallon for diesel. And this is the overall funding table, we call it the financial plan summary for the entire 2045 LRTP. Because whenever we get the needs plan, we're going to pare that down to the cost feasible plan, and we have to fit it into these dollar amounts. This is the official revenue forecast from FDOT for the different types of funding that they have. The CIS highways, that's including construction and right-of-way. And then there's the non-CIS, the transit funds, and then if we were a larger TPO, we'd get an extra bit of funding, and we'll see how that shakes out after we get the results of the 2020 census. This is slightly different from what you saw last time. It was honestly just the non-CIS and transit weren't put in as millions of dollars. So it's actually a bit more than what you saw in April, but we fixed that. So just a minor administrative change of adding the right numbers. But moving on to the next slide. That's all I have for you. Like I said, it's mostly based off of gas taxes, which haven't been changed too much except for on the local level and since the early 90s. And then on top of that, vehicle miles traveled went up for a while, but it's leveling off. And even this past year went down dramatically. And vehicle mileage on cars, mileage per gallon, has only gotten better for cars. So people are paying less and less in fuel taxes. But we are asking for approval of the financial resources document at this time. So approving resolution OW 2113. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ms. Nobles. I appreciate your presentation. Members, is there any questions of Ms. Nobles? Okay, seeing none, this is not a roll call. This will just be a yay or nay. Is there a motion on the floor to accept and adopt?
So moved.
So, first by Mayor Whitten and second by Councilman Rensick. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item, item 4 is enclosure D. Consideration of resolution 0W21-14 adopting the Okaloosa-Walton TPO 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan Congestion Management Process Plan. Ms. Nobles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, TPO members. We kind of give the LRTP in pieces to you. That way you're not overwhelmed at the end when we're asking for final approval. So this part is the Congestion Management Process Plan, and we've added in the new System Performance Report into this agenda item. The overall process of the congestion management process is kind of like the scientific method of congestion management. We develop objectives, trying to improve the congestion in the roads. We look at all the variables. We look at the network. We develop performance measures. Then we collect that data that we need. And then we see what happened, what's going well, what's not, and then reevaluate those strategies that we came up with to see if we can improve upon that. Next slide. So like I said, we look at all the different factors. We're looking in the urbanized area since this is a TPO product. We look at the roadway network, including the transit system, bike ped facilities. We also look at truck volumes for freight issues. And then we see which segments are performing under the level of service targets set by FDOT. And we also look at crash rates to see where our problem areas are. Next slide. So in the end, we come up with 5 overarching strategies, and within each of these strategies are performance metrics of how we can reduce travel demand. So we look at the vehicle miles traveled, we look at commute times, any transit or bike and ped improvements. For improving safety, we look at those crash rates, including fatalities as well as injuries. For active transportation modes, we look at those bike ped facilities as well as ADA compliant facilities. And for reliability and efficient transportation options, we look at the level of service data and those ITS system metrics. And for system preservation, we look at resurfacing, how those assets are performing and keeping an inventory of them, and those pavement conditions. And so why we've kind of lumped in the system performance report is there's lots of different ways we can look at how the system is operating. And the feds and the state have said, all right, we need this to become standardized. Y'all need to do it a certain way, measure it a certain way, and report it a certain way. So FDOT came up with this template document. That's why it has a bit of a different feel to it. And those highway safety measures, which is performance measures 1, the pavement and bridge conditions, PM2, system performance and freight, PM3, and transit asset management and performance are all listed in this document. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. I believe the next slide is the motion we are asking. Oh, no, it's the video for the LRTP that we just wanted to show off. Our consultants made it, and it's to help promote the LRTP process and to get people involved and engaged and provide input into the process.
The Emerald Coast is home to several of our nation's top military installations and booming new industries, bringing progress to our region. As technology changes and our community grows, it is crucial that we have safe and efficient transportation options. That is exactly what we're working on here at the Okaloosa-Walton TPO. We're commissioned to address transportation needs in our area for the next 25 years. Our work will become the blueprint for the region, and the goal is to develop a safe transportation system that considers all means of travel and improves our quality of life while protecting and preserving our environment. And that's why we want to hear from you. Your perspective is the one that matters. Make your voice heard by visiting ecrc.org today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ms. Nobles, for your presentation. The motion is to adopt, obviously, the resolution. Before we do that, committee members, are there any questions of Ms. Nobles before we consider a motion? Seeing none, this is now a roll call, first and a second, and a yea or nay. Can I get a motion on the floor to adopt this resolution? Mr. Rensick's got the first. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gladwell. Thank you so much. Is there any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, next up on closure E, all committees, election of chairs and vice chairs for fiscal year 2022, July 1st through June 30th, 2022. And Ms. Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had Commissioner Ketchel, Councilman Rensick, and Mayor Ron Nearson on your nominating committee today. And I'll ask Commissioner Ketchel if she will give a report.
So in our lengthy meeting, we decided that we would ask Commissioner Nathan Boyles if he would accept chair again, and Commissioner Ponder if he would accept the vice position.
Commissioner Bowles, if you're on the line, can you respond to that, please, sir?
Yes, sir. I appreciate the confidence and would be happy to serve one more year if y'all are willing to keep me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, thank you again. What does that require? A motion to second? Okay. With that, we have a recommendation for Commissioner Bowles to remain chair, and then I'd be honored to serve as vice chair. If there's a first and a second, we can move. We got first from Mr. Brandon, second by Mr. Mayor Ron Nearson. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, motion carries. Okay, next up, thank you. I'm honored to serve with you guys. Under closure F, all committees, review of draft Okaloosa-Walton TPO 2045 long-range transportation plan needs. Ms. Nobles, there's no action required. This is your presentation.
That is correct. We are entering into the home stretch of the 2045 LRTP. This is prime opportunity for anyone to get into, add in any projects that they see the TPO needs. This is kind of like the very foundational document of the TPO. Next slide. this shows the cycle of the TPO planning process. On the left side is the LRTP process, which is only done every 5 years. While it can be updated at any time or amended at any time, we do the full update every 5 years. So this is, like I said, a great opportunity to get involved into the TPO process. We have the needs plan, which are all the projects that are needed. In the next few months, we're going to pare that down to the cost feasible plan and present that draft in October. So it's got to be on the needs plan before it can be on the cost feasible plan, before it can be on the priorities. And the priorities are done every year, and that is the cost feasible plan prioritized. So I just want to reiterate that, the importance of this. If you go to the next slide, this shows a map of the current draft needs plan. I'm going to use Mayor Witten as an example. We met with him a few weeks ago about that Crabapple Antioch Road project, and sure enough, it was on our needs plan list. But before it got officially published, we double checked it. It was one of the amendments into the 2040 LRTP. But since the TPO isn't meeting until October, we are encouraging every one of you to meet with your staff, or you can meet with us directly, but we are going to be meeting with your staff, and we can also meet with you if you'd like, to review all the projects in this draft needs plan for your jurisdiction and go through each of them and make sure that is what you need. See if any of them, we've completed, we didn't realize it, we'll remove it. If we have any additions that you see that we need, we can get that in, and we will be producing a draft 2 of the needs plan, hopefully in August, maybe September. That way we can still get ample public input before the October timeline, your October TPO date when we ask for adoption. So that's all I have for you now. I encourage you to get involved or contact me, and I'll be happy to arrange a meeting for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nobles. I appreciate your presentation. Chair Ketchel.
Thank you. I'm sorry, the longer I'm on here, the more I have to say. I've been coming to these meetings for a long time now, 8 years. It's very important that we continue to really focus on multimodal paths. And I bring that up today because I'm hoping that the TPO might put some funding towards it, and that we have 23 miles of paved road in Okaloosa County that need multimodal paths. We recently have been very happy that Eglin Air Force Base has approved, and now we're in design for the multimodal from bridge to bridge, from Brooks to Destin. But I want to keep encouraging us to move forward with that, and I'm sure you all feel that way in Walton, but you all have done a better job than we have of getting your bike paths and your multimodal paths put in place as you build your roads. I just have to keep emphasizing that because it's really important, and it's a lot of people like to exercise, they come here and travel, but even those who live here, it's an alternative way of transportation that gets cars off the road.
Well said. Thank you. And very good. Any other comments before we move forward? Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, yes, sir.
Yes, I do want to strongly echo that, especially moving up into the north end of the county. We have seen good success on the south end, and it consistently ranks very highly in citizens' pleasure with those things in terms of as a amenity and as a need. But in the north end, what we see it as is an opportunity for equal access for those who don't have vehicles, low income people who can't drive, elderly, retirees. And we are strongly pursuing that in the city of Defuniak Springs, and we support that across the board throughout the TPO.
Thank you. Thank you for adding a comment to it. Okay, next item, item H, under informational items. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your info pack, you have the minutes from the last meetings in April. You have your actions report from April, some correspondence, and your schedule. And I want to make a note that the next meeting will not be until October the 21st, and it will be in Walton County at the Walton County Annex. Is that right, Commissioner? Okay, thank you. Okay.
So this is an error, Eglin Parkway? I mean, this one?
That is incorrect. That is this location, and we are trying very hard to make sure that we have our meetings distributed in our region. So we're going to move over to Walton County for a while.
Fantastic.
What is that address again, sir?
over 31 South. I don't know the current address, so I don't want to.
31 Coastal Boulevard,
Coastal Center Boulevard.
Coastal Center Boulevard,
Santa Rosa Beach.
Santa Rosa Beach, 31 Coastal Center Boulevard, Santa Rosa Beach. Thursday, October 21st at 3 p.m. Everybody good with that? Before we go for a motion to adjourn, is there, ma'am, anything else or anyone else, any other comments before we go to adjournment?
Well, suggestion I have, or question actually. So as urgent as this is over there in Freeport, where I live, is there nothing we can't do to push it up to the governor, say, hey, this is an emergency, this really needs to be done. You've got hurricane season coming, fires, I mean, it's a safety issue. So
Well, yeah.
if there's any some way we can.
I think there's several and great comments, of course, great inquiry. I mean, Chair Ketchel even actually made the petition to your commissioners here about petitioning the governor perhaps. I know session is not until next year, so nothing can be done legislatively until the following year, but that'll be something that the Walton County leadership can try to do. I know the city of Freeport also could maybe, there's multiple jurisdictions involved, so I'll have to point that way, unfortunately, because that's.
So that's fine. I can talk to Charlotte, she's part of our Republican group.
Okay. Thank you.
And see if there's all
Before we adjourn, is there any other comments or questions? Thank you so much today. I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, Ms. Braden. Pardon me, Councilman.
I had a quick question. It wasn't here, but, does anybody have an update on the City of Destin's 98 redesign from Marler Bridge to Airport Road? Is that anywhere?
Are you referencing the PD&E study that we're moving forward with for that portion of the corridor? Marla to Airport, you said?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that PD&E has just started. So I'm not even sure if we've selected a consultant at this time, but I can get you an update, but we've not started any data collection or anything like that at this point in time.
So we don't have any idea when that construction what year that might start?
No, sir. The only thing funded at this point in time is the PD&E study.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Pretty good question. Anything else? Have a motion to adjourn? So moved or second? Second. All right. Thank you so much. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you for joining our Okaloosa-Walton TPO meeting. Here are ways to share your input. Email us at publicinvolvement@ecrc.org. E-comment anytime by visiting ecrc.org/OWE-comment. Call us to leave a message 24/7. Send a letter, P.O. Box 11399, Pensacola, Florida. Here are ways to stay connected with us on social media. Follow us for all the latest transportation news. Find us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to attend meetings virtually and watch our videos. To learn more about the Okaloosa-Walton TPO, visit ecrc.org/OWTPO. We hope to hear from